was in San Francisco. I was 17. I remember Pearl Harbor because it was on a Sunday and we had come back from church and we turned on the radio and there it was. It was about noon. I mean, we really were shocked. We didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to do. I didn't think that at first. It has to be remembered that these things don't happen like bolts of lightning. There's been a long history of hostility toward Asians in California. Well, of course, it became very intense after Pearl Harbor, with signs and stores saying we're not Japanese. And I mean, Chinese stores would say that. I don't blame them. I mean, because you never know what happens. The actual gathering together to go to camp happened over many months. It didn't happen overnight. And first the notices came that this is going to happen. Then the notices came where we were supposed to meet and what we're supposed to bring. And I mean, so it may be a couple of months of waiting for the next shoe to fall, so to speak. My mother was much more anxious and worried and upset by this whole thing. My father didn't seem to be that concerned. They asked for volunteers to come and help build the camp. I mean, build the barracks and build your own jail kind of thing. And so he went, and I guess he helped them. I don't know what he did. And my mother and I were left at home, and she was very upset. We lived in a small Japanese community in San Francisco because it was highly segregated at that time. It was very supportive in that sense. I mean, we were all in the same boat. So people would come and, talk and give my mother courage. And she would do the same, I guess, for others. In general, I have to say that the Japanese were very compliant. There were a few people who resisted. In general, I think people were cowed and they did what they were told. They went where they were told. Some people say in their stories and books that I've read that soldiers came to their door with bayonets and everything. No one came to our door. We voluntarily went. I mean, I can't believe it now. I mean, what else are they going to do? Be shot? At least I think that's what my parents must have held. I'm sure they saw no alternative. I mean, the barracks were not insulated, so in the winter they froze to death. In the summer, it was like living in an oven because it was in the Salt Lake Desert. And so there was no trees or anything to shade the barracks. And I mean, laundry had to be all done by hand. There was no privacy. That's the one big thing. The walls went up only so high, so you could hear everybody. There are maybe 5 units in a barrack, and you can hear all the other families. I would go to the fence, we had a fence, and say, why were we chosen that this should happen to us? I mean, I really was I wasn't confused, but I was bitter, I guess, or mad or something. And you could see the traffic going by, and here we are behind the fence. And, it just really made it very visible the way they're treated and the way we're treated. The high school we went to was pretty near but no one came to visit us except one teacher. Not one other teacher came. The only person who spoke up to say, is this legal? It might be illegal. You should think about it, was J. Edgar Hoover. Isn't that amazing? I don't know that any churches protested. ACLU did not protest. We had no support whatsoever on the outside. We were very small. There were only 110,000 of us. I mean, and we were all on the West Coast, so that people beyond the Rockies, let's say east of the Rockies, hardly knew any Japanese. We were an unknown, small, insignificant group of people as far as the rest of the country is concerned. But the ACLU didn't support us because they didn't want to cause any problems for Roosevelt, his war effort and so forth. They didn't want to bring this all up as a contentious issue. So the California ACLU wanted to go to court and protest, but they were told not to. I'm not a nationalist, so right off the bat, I don't feel, we're all together and this and that. I don't think we're all together. I'm not really. I was thinking the other night that I'm not really for diversity as such. Because diversity, let's say you take a neighborhood and you take a diverse neighborhood, the white residents of that neighborhood are going to be dominant regardless. I mean, because they have the privilege of being white. Whereas I came from a neighborhood that was entirely Japanese. I felt comfortable. I felt I would belong. I think the white people are not conscious of it. They're not doing it because they're mean and so forth. But I think they are unconscious about how dominant they really are. I did all that in the 1960s. Day and night, I marched and demonstrated and was arrested and this and that. And it seems so, I feel so sad because it's the same thing all over again. It's as though we have not gone, well, we have gone some, of course we have, but essentially have we? I don't know. What is it to hate that much that you would sit on somebody's neck for 10 minutes or whatever? I just can't even. It's as though they don't live on the same planet that the rest of us do, Yes. One summer I worked in a in what they used to call insane asylum. It was an American Friends project. And when another student and I went, and when we first went, it was they were treated so horribly that we would come back at night to our room and cry. It was just so, we hardly could stand it. Then little by little, we got used to it. By the time, 2 months I think we were there. By the time we came home, we didn't cry about it either. So people get used to these things, I think, that like the police. At first they're probably horrified, but then, a year goes by and it becomes part of the culture. When I was active in the civil rights movement in the 60s, I thought, when this is over, a new world is coming. And I was so hopeful and, a tiny bit of a new world came, but the other side is so strong and so persistent and so determined. Don't let us rest for a minute. The message I want to get out is how fragile democracy is. That in an instance, it could be taken away from you. That if you turn around, it might not be there when you look back. I mean, so you have to protect it with your life.